Have you ever wondered what's the difference between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive? Right behind me, we have a Suzuki Vitara, which has an all-grip. Basically, it's all-wheel drive, and I will tell you why it's an all-wheel drive and what's the difference between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. Generally speaking, in an all-wheel drive vehicle, you cannot do too many things to adjust the all-wheel drive system. You can put it into sport. In some cases, you can lock the rear differential, like in this vehicle. And generally speaking, when you have all-wheel drive, the front wheels drive the vehicle. So you have front-wheel drive. And when needed, when there is any loss of grip, the rear wheels also come to help. So the car automatically somehow transforms the front wheel drive into an all-wheel drive. Everything happens automatically. And in most all-wheel drives nowadays, they are part-time, which means you have only two-wheel drive, and when needed, you get all-wheel drive. There are also permanent all-wheel drive systems, which are a lot better when it comes to safety, when it comes to grip, when it comes to performance, but they are a lot less efficient. You have a higher fuel consumption and overall higher costs long term. For example, if you buy a Subaru, which has symmetrical all-wheel drive, all four wheels have the same traction, the same force. You have 50% of engine power to the front and 50% to the rear, or simply put 25% for each wheel. That's why it's symmetrical. I've actually owned a Subaru Impreza with a manual transmission, 2-liter, natural aspirated, from 2009, and the all drive system was top notch. And you had a high-low lever, even though that kind of tool you find only on four-wheel drive systems, but in a Subaru you have an all-wheel drive with a high-low lever. Also, you can get a Porsche Cayenne or a BMW with X-Drive, or a Volkswagen with a Torsen central mechanical limited slip differential, or you can get an Audi with Quattro, but a Quattro with the engine mounted longitudinally or lengthwise, which also have a Torsen limited slip central differential. These cars have permanent all-wheel drive with different splits. BMW has generally 70% to the rear, 30% to the front. Porsche has pretty similar to Audi. 60% to the rear, 40% to the front, and so on. But as I told you, fuel consumption increases with about 2 liters per 100 kilometers each time you drive the vehicle. So long term, it can be pretty costly, especially if you live in a region where gasoline or diesel are a lot more expensive. Four-wheel drive. If you buy a four-wheel drive, generally you have the default setting, let's say, in which the vehicle is two-wheel drive. And generally speaking, it's not a rule, but in general, four-wheel drive vehicles have rear-wheel drive. When you have two-wheel drive, the rear wheels are working. And if you need four-wheel drive, high or low, you have a button or a lever to switch from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. So you get from rear-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. If you want to tow something really heavy, if you want to climb something super inclined, or if you have a very steep downhill, you can use the high to slowly decelerate or slowly accelerate so you don't overheat the clutch or the transmission, and it's super useful. As a rule of thumb, four-wheel drive is more advanced than all-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive requires a lot more driver intervention than all-wheel drive, and four-wheel drive is generally put on pickups and heavy-duty SUVs like a Mercedes G-Class or a Toyota Land Cruiser, or pickups like, I don't know, Ford Raptor, Toyota Hilux, Toyota Tacoma, Toyota Tundra, and so on. So heavy duty. Heavy duty means large, powerful SUVs, real SUVs, old school SUVs, not sport activity vehicles as we call them in Europe, like large SUVs or pickups for heavy duty. In the real world, maybe you will ask me, well, what should I choose? If you only drive around town and you go occasionally on a hike or, I don't know, to a trip and you need a little bit of all-wheel drive, then you should buy budget all-wheel drive like this vehicle because it does a great job. If you need more power, more traction, you tow heavy stuff, you live in a very cold and steep area where there are steep hills, you may need four-wheel drive. But for most people, I think all-wheel drive, a part-time all-wheel drive, which is pretty efficient in terms of fuel economy and maintenance, will do just great. Let me know in the comment section what you like the most and what do you prefer, all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. Maybe next year I'll get a pickup with a four-wheel drive, and we will do some more content. See you next time.